Well, a video with this title definitely isn't a bad idea. As we all know, there are zero Destroy Lonely fans out there that take music reviews way too seriously. It just doesn't happen. But it doesn't matter. Today, I'm gonna be fearless and ask the question: is Destroy Lonely one of the worst rappers in the game? Well, to decide on that, I listened to his projects Broken Hearts Squared, it looks like that, NS Plus Ultra, and If Looks Could Kill to see how I feel about his music. A little did you know fact before we get started: did you know that Destroy Lonely is the son of the rapper I-20, who is known for being featured on Move Bitch by Ludacris? It's not really relevant to the video at all, I just thought it was an interesting fact. Anyway, let's get started with the first project that I heard from Mr. Lonely.
And I know these bird bitches fought together, and this could want like a TV special. And my money long, yeah, so having extra.
I always get a little bit excited doing a Worst Rappers in the Game episode on a rapper that I have never even heard a single song from before. It's fun knowing that it's going to be an entirely new experience for me. I don't know what I'm going to feel when I sit down and press play. And in this case, what I felt was next to nothing for 35 minutes. Maybe a slight "what the fuck was that?" on every song or two, where Lonely just decides to start rapping off beat or flow in the messiest way possible, but not much other than that. Destroy Lonely kills the vibe of basically every instrumental that he touches on here. The only time that I remembered that I had a pulse during this project was when I laughed at him rapping about chicken nuggets on Take a Pic.
And I was down bad eating Tyson chicken nuggets, now it's fixed. But I get high and eat some chicken nuggets, bitch, I can't forget it.
Dover Street Market is a perfect example of Lonely being able to ruin an intriguing beat the second that he starts rapping. It starts off and it sounds pretty slick with those almost classical sounding piano keys. And then Lonely just starts trying to cram too many syllables into a bunch of the lines, and he sounds like a complete beginner. I mean, he kind of was at this point, but it just completely ruins the song for me.
I'm up in Dover Street Market, and I said that hoe put it back on the market. And I draw the whip, but little bitch, I can't park it. She asked what I like to do, told that bitch shopping.
He even opens up the album on Top Floor Boss with some of that wobbly rapping that just sounds messy with some of the lines overlapping each other. It was the worst possible first impression.
I write it in my ice, I ain't take it off. Credit, not talking nice, we gon' take them off. These diamonds reflect like a laser dog. I keep it real, I don't lie, cause I'm playing dog.
And the way he raps on CDG, bro, the beat is over here and your vocals are on a separate continent.
I just hit Rodeo, I spent a few thousand. Locked in the stew for like more than a few hours. Bitch, they hate me for a nigga too sour. I hide you like Satan, I'm shitting on you, coward.
And then, my god, the way he raps on Groupie Bitch, what the hell is going on there?
Yeah, you must be stupid, bitch. I'm not buying lashes. Ain't no way I'll fuck a groupie, bitch, so please don't even ask me.
It sucks because his beats here do have a cool ambient melodic trap sound to them, but it never feels like Lonely does anything to work well with them, and he ends up dragging all his production down. Fun, which SpongeBob cleared with his track of the same name, by the way, and Yeah, I have these really brightly melodic beats that just ooze happy vibes. But then Lonely comes in sounding a bit like Lil Uzi, but with less musicality and weaker flows, and it drains a fair bit of life from them.
I want my bro, we smoking though. Yeah, I want my bro and he poke me up. Yeah, I'm with this bitch and she cool as fuck. Come through and fly like a motherfucking kite. Little bitches should know that I'm already high. I'm a young nigga and I've been reaching new heights.
I guess that's why the cover of this album has a kind of vampire thing going on. It's a metaphor for how quickly Lonely can drain the vitality from these once lively beats. And those honestly are a couple of the stronger tracks on here. Fun and Yeah are listenable. They're somewhat enjoyable, but I didn't exactly have glowing things to say about them. Miley Cyrus has a decent vibe to it. The hook starts off promising, which is kind of nice, but that's pretty much what this album peaks with, being just fine. And at its worst, a lot of the songs are just insanely boring or poorly made. Hopefully it gets better from here, but Broken Hearts Squared is a weird stylization for a deluxe project that I don't think actually means anything, it just looks cool, I guess. Was a pretty bad first impression.
Every time you ask the same story. Every time I tell the same story.
I want to say something positive about Lonely. I wish I could, but right now, I genuinely don't think there's anything that I like about him as a rapper. What is really new or innovative about Lonely on this project? The extreme lack of effort or sense of flow? The almost hilarious ability he has to make me feel sorry for the beats he's given because they could have went to someone else? This is such nothing music. I know I'm going in off the bat here, but I do not understand what I'm supposed to be seeing in this. And 24 songs? Come on, man, you don't need to be doing that. It would be really hard to give specific examples if I didn't take notes on these albums for these videos, because I feel like the second this project stopped playing, the majority of it just slipped out of my brain. But I guess the best examples of Lonely killing the vibe of these tracks would be the more rock-influenced songs on this project, like Swag School or Crystal Castles. They actually have interesting beats, but the second that Lonely starts rapping, the millisecond that his voice pops up, the vibe dies a quick death.
A pretty bitch with demon eyes. I'm still gonna have my way, I ain't never gonna see no problem. Yeah, you be a million miles away, I'm still gonna climb that mountain.
The only reason why I'd have this project above Broken Hearts is because it is mixed better, and the beats are definitely better on this project, but Lonely's skills are still bottom tier from my perspective. Shout out to the producers for carrying this one. The first 5 to 6 songs, for example, are probably the most listenable Lonely songs that I've heard throughout this experience so far. This project is 24 songs, so 5 to 6 at the start being decent isn't necessarily high praise, but those are the most listenable tracks that Lonely has, in my opinion, from track 1 to 5 on here. Because the beats are really upbeat and energetic, and Lonely is bearable on them, which I feel like is the most I can ask of him at this point.
Damn, I done switched up my swag and I hide in my bag, no these niggas ain't on that. Yeah, damn, I can't throw a 9-5s at back, but you can't catch this shit on a Kodak. And I reckon this blood red at my coat. I put this Vinci all over my pants and I just did balance in my shoes and my hoe.
The 5th song, which is the title track, No Stylist, is one of the only somewhat catchy Lonely songs that I've heard yet, so I'll give him props for that, and the production is brilliant.
Bitch, I wake up, no stylist. Fresh as fuck, I put it on up, I did this shit.
Honestly, if No Stylist was literally just an EP consisting of the first 5 or 6 tracks, I'd maybe understand a little bit more what people see in Lonely's music. But from Blitz onwards, there were barely any songs that I even somewhat enjoyed. I've found on this album that if the beat isn't energetic, then there's a really high chance that Lonely will sound boring as all hell over it. And with the exception of Veteran, which is a song that I actually kind of enjoy, it's a little bit fun. You know, Ken Carson and Destroy Lonely have a little bit of a back and forth on there. I don't know if I'd like Ken's own music because I haven't heard any of it, but on these Destroy Lonely tracks, it at least provides a little bit of energy to the project. But outside of that one, no other songs on the project are as lively as the first fifth of the album. In essence, I think Lonely is 100% carried by his production, and that's not great when the majority of the beats here are these more sparse, ambient, and low-key instrumentals. It's a sound that I think he can't sound good over because his rapping and his vocals generally are weak as all hell.
That's why I'm not helping nobody. Got a model, bitch, she got a body. Money on the table, we bring money to the table. Bitches on the table, we got bitches on the table. She asked me what I think. Yeah, she know that black my favorite color, but her little pussy pink. Yeah, I just been kinda by this paper.
If I split this album into sections to show how I feel about it, it would be the surprisingly decent part, the deathly boring part, the sort of interesting rock instrumentals that get ruined whenever Lonely pops up part, and the deathly boring part 2. Also, I guess the whole squared thing wasn't cool enough for a deluxe project, so he decided to call this one No Stylist Plus Ultra. Again, I don't think it means anything. Lonely just said, yeah, that looks cool, And here we are. Also, a bunch of the tracks just randomly leave out some vowels, but then those same vowels are present in the names of other tracks. There's really no consistency to it. Oh yeah, what's your favorite track from Destroy Lonely? I think my favorite is Jet Like a Good. Oh really, I think that's a good choice. I'd have to say my favorite is Vitamin Coat. Sure, I'd put this one above Broken Hearts, but it's still very far from good. And I'm extremely concerned about the fact that we have a 26 track album up next.
I just been pouring codeine on my logo, shawty going all the way down for the promo.
26 tracks of absolute death. This album only reinforced my thoughts on Destroy Lonely so far. He is the ultimate vibe killer. And it's 1 hour and 24 minutes long. Fucking why? This album being that long almost had me backing out of making this video more than once. The thought of listening to this project at least 2 to 3 times to really solidify my initial thoughts on it was genuinely stressful. But I did it. I listened through multiple times and almost nothing has stuck with me. This music has no life, nothing interesting going on, no cool vibes, and almost nothing remotely memorable. A graveyard is more lively than this album.
I'm on the way to you right now, so don't you cry. You don't cry. Riding around and testing, ain't it really honest? Bitch, you know I'm about it. Why you keep on calling me? Count this money on it, look like I just hit the lottery. A whole lot of weed to smoke on. And my diamonds stay on fleet, they way too cold, they don't snow cold. I'm not like I'm Richie for it. My diamond choking.
I daydream listening to this shit because it cannot hold my attention. What kind of drugs do I need to take to make this sound good? He has no interesting flows. He has a voice that drags down almost every beat that it touches. He doesn't showcase any personality with his vocals. Whoever mixed Lonely's vocals throughout this project did an amazing job of making him sound as robotic as possible. There's absolutely nothing here. The only song I really recall having any semblance of energy and slightly less boring vocal performances on it was Money and Sex. Again, another one with Ken Carson. That's one that I actually somewhat enjoy on here. It's not even that great of a song and it's still pretty dumb, but it's dumb fun, which is a lot more than I can say for the majority of this album. It's a bonus track, but it's one of the only ones that actually feels alive, even if Ken Carson sounds like Roddy Ricch from Wish.com on the hook. It's also pretty entertaining when you notice him struggling to say the word invincible. I also thought How You Feel was fine. It was a deceptively okay opener with Lonely having a slightly stronger vocal performance and flows that were more identifiable as actually having a flow.
You came right on time. Can we turn up for these lights? Can I roll up, get a little high? Every time I look at your eyes.
And Brazy Girls is one that I almost wanted to like, just because the instrumental had those sort of poppy drum break segments that kind of suggested, hey, maybe you'll be getting something a little bit different from Lonely on this track, and then it just never really delivers on that promise.
Right up the computer. Leave my lungs, yeah, diamonds on my hands and fingers. Cut in my cup, I'm going used to pouring syrup.
That's really where the positives end though. I guess you could say with this project, he does try a little bit to maybe have songs that go for a little bit more of a concept and, you know, try to feel a little bit more full and fleshed out, but he's such a boring artist that it rarely works. Moment of Silence and Safety, for example, there are a couple tracks on here which I think try to go for a slightly more deeper sound, but it really doesn't work because Lonely can't make a song without resorting to the laundry list of rap cliches. If Looks Could Kill is definitely worse than No Stylist for me because for some reason, Destroy Lonely decided to lean more into the boring, soulless side of his music than he did on previous projects, rather than leaning away from it more into the energetic side, the side that actually sometimes sounds okay, and it just makes it an absolute drag to sit through. You know that one section of No Stylist that I actually somewhat enjoyed? nothing that bright or vibrant is really present at all on here. He's going for a darker sound with this one, I guess, but my god is it a painful listen. He always manages to take cool, interesting instrumentals and turn them into a tedious, expressionless experience.
No, I don't know where I started, but I swear I know where I'm finishing it. I look like I jumped out the ocean and all of my diamonds I'm dripping this shit. I be going back again, high as ever. She want to fuck me right now, but let me check my schedule.
If Looks Could Kill just sucks to me, honestly. There's absolutely no context I think I could enjoy this music under, and I really hated listening to this album. Somehow this was even worse than the really amateur sound of Broken Hearts. At least that one didn't overstay its welcome and have numerous boring tracks stacked back to back.
Roll like a tire, bad bitch, fuck me till she tired. Damn, he not having rats, he a liar. I'm a young boss and he fuck nigga fired.
So after all of that, let me sum up my thoughts on Destroy Lonely right here. In terms of his albums that I listened to, here's how I'd rank them. No Stylist plus Ultra was not good, but it was the best project that I heard from Lonely. The first 5 to 6 songs here was the best music I heard from him throughout this entire experience, and that's because the beats were so energetic that they forced him not to be as boring as usual. When the instrumentals get more low-key or sparse or ambient, which is unfortunately the majority of this project, he is one of the most boring rappers around today. Behind that, I've got Broken Hearts to the Power of 2, which sounded incredibly amateurish, and overall it's pretty damn bad, but it at least respects the listener's time enough to only go on for 35 minutes, and a couple of the songs are alright. And right at the back of the line, the worst one that I heard was If Looks Could Kill. Listening to this album tires me out so damn hard. There's no reason it had to be this long, and on top of that, it also contains the most lifeless Destroy Lonely music so far. A deadly combination. All in all, Lonely is bad to me in the worst possible way. He's bad to me in the way that makes me feel absolutely nothing. To some extent, I prefer certain music that's obnoxiously bad to music that feels spiritless and devoid of anything that elicits any type of reaction or feeling. And I don't know if this is going to make much sense, but throughout this whole experience, I really felt like Destroy Lonely was mostly about forcing an aesthetic, but the actual music itself has nothing going on. All his album titles and song titles across his albums are stylized in different ways, but it doesn't feel like that stylization actually represents anything. It's just because it looks cool with absolutely nothing under the surface, and you feel that in the music. I think with his music, there is a part of me deep down that does want to get it, that wants to understand what Lonely's biggest fans see in his music, because I'm genuinely curious to know, but the way it is right now, it's just not clicking with me. I don't think there's enough there for me to get it. And that's why, as a final rating, I'm landing on a 2 out of 10 for Destroy Lonely. That places him at the number 32 spot out of the 34 rappers that I've covered in this series so far, including Lonely, making him one of the worst rappers in the game to me as of right now. It's been a while since someone has ranked this low in this series. As I said, even some obnoxiously bad rappers are somewhat more enjoyable for me to listen to than really boring rappers, and that's what Lonely's music is to me. Boring as can be. But hey, that's just how I feel about his music, so how do you guys feel about it? Let me know down in those comments below, and leave your own personal rating out of 10 for Destroy Lonely if you've listened to his music. If you haven't, listen to it first, give it a chance, and then give it a rating so that it's an educated opinion, you know? You can click here to check out the worst rappers in the game playlist to see why everyone ranked where they did, and much love to all my Patreon supporters and channel members over here for helping me out. With a special shout out to my biggest supporters, and those are Big Daddy Foe, Griffin Upchurch, I Am Regent, and Lucas1123.